All right, so this is a 2025 creative recap. It's just a combination of all the things that I created in the year 2025. So it originally started with crochet. I decided that I was going to sponsor a crochet club at my high school. And what that meant was that I would spend about an hour each week working with students and teaching them how to crochet. Did I know how to crochet? No. So what I decided to do was I'm going to go online. YouTube University was my number one stop for information. And I'm just going to find something simple. I started with Googling phone cases and phone pouches and phone purses and bags because I thought, oh, okay, well, I want it to be something that the students could use, something that they could wear on their person. And at that time in Texas, phones weren't banned, so they were fine. There was one student who was really good at crocheting, and she had already started a little business and was selling her amigurumi stuffed animals at different art fairs on campus and selling them among teachers and students. And so I got her to actually make me this penguin. Okay, so this is where it started. As I said before, I did not know how to crochet. I wasn't even at this level of crochet. I have since given away most of my crochet items, but I do have pictures, and future me will place them here so that you can see them. I remember crocheting a lemon. We did try to start with hats and with scarves and, like I said, with the phone bag, but we quickly found that you had to first learn how to do the crochet stitches in order to follow a pattern. And at that point, we didn't even know how to read a pattern when we found them. We didn't understand what we were doing. And I happened to be in Joanne's, RIP Joanne, and talking to my mom about my ideas, when a lady in line said, hey, I recommend that you do the woobles. And at that point, I had in my hand a skein of purple yarn, and I just thought, oh, I'll just buy a skein of yarn and then some crochet needles or crochet hooks for the students, just enough for us to all get started, and we'll go from there because we're all learning together. Well, I actually took that lady's advice and decided on buying a wooble, just buying a simple kit. Yeah, I decided to buy a kit. But when I went to the actual first meeting to meet the students and talk to some of the teachers who might be interested in co-sponsoring that club, just coming and helping out, we actually found that one of the other teachers had lots of woobles patterns and lots of t-shirt yarn and crochet hooks from the different woobles kits that she got. If you don't know anything about woobles, it's a company that makes these ready-made crochet kits, and inside of it is everything that you need to construct the character, right? And so basically she got us all set up with yarn and with crochet hooks. So at that point we had the one that I purchased and the one that she gifted us, and then she gave each person, myself and the other sponsored teacher, along with the students, a ball of t-shirt yarn. And we were able to kind of look through her catalog of patterns and decide which one we would be interested in. I think, if I'm recalling it right, she recommended that we start with the axolotl. And if I have a picture of it, I'll post it here, because I know that I do have it. It's at school in my classroom on the shelf. I just don't have it with me right now. So I did the axolotl, and the first time that I started it, my stitches were super tight. I was like strong arming those stitches, trying to get everything to look right. And I was up at like 2 or 3 a.m. one night when I realized that the good thing about Woobles is that they have online resources. When you buy one of their kits, they give you a code, and that code gets you access to a video tutorial that gives you step-by-step how to do each step in that pattern. And that was so helpful because it was like something just clicked. I could see it, you know? You can tell me something, I could read something, but until I see it, it really doesn't click for me. So having that visual component was really what just sparked everything, and it just went off from there. So after I did my axolotl, then I decided, hey, each of the t-shirt yarn balls that you get brand new comes with a free pattern for a little lemon character. So I made the lemon character. I'll post a picture right here. And there were problems with it. It was too big, or I ended up actually embroidering the eyes because at that point I didn't know anything about safety eyes, and I had purchased a huge Amazon shipment of safety eyes and they weren't there yet. So I had to wait for those, but I was just really excited. So I just thought, okay, I can make things. And then I stumbled upon Reddit, the Woobles Reddit. All I'm gonna say is your girl didn't buy any of those PDFs. You know what I'm saying? But we had access to all of them, if you get my drift, you know? So we started just making stuff. And eventually I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So once that started, then it's like, okay, well, what else could I make? I like purses. I really like clutch purses, like compact, small purses. And I thought, okay, well, let me go on Etsy and see if there's something else that I would like to make. And I bought 2 patterns for purses. One of them I still have yet to make. Maybe today or maybe this year, 2026 will be the year that I actually make that purse. But the first one I did make, and that is this one. So you can see it is beautiful. I added, her pattern didn't call for a clasp like this one. So I added that, and I think that this was the most beautiful thing that I had ever made. It is wonky. It is not perfect, but I made it. And so of course I wore it every chance I could. I'm talking like church conferences, Sunday morning at church, you would see me with my bag on, and anybody that asked me about where I got it from, I made that. You know what I mean? Because it just feels good to say that. And so once I made that one, then it's like, okay, well, I want a smaller version. And so that's what I did. I made a smaller version. And I thought this one was adorable. It is so cute. It's not functional at all. It's not wide enough or long enough to fit a purse, or, I mean, to fit your phone or anything outside of a very small wallet. But just look at that. Isn't that cute? The strap is shorter, but I just thought, man, this is awesome. I have 2 purses that I made. Once I made the purse, then I thought, well, I like to make functional items, things that you can wear, things that are practical. I stumbled upon an Instagram of a lady in some Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking country where she made sandals out of yarn. And I said to myself, bro, I can do that. That looks cool. And I went to YouTube University, and on there you could see people from all over the world. There were people in like the countries in Africa making sandals on heels. They were people in like Asian countries just making their own shoes. And I just figured I could do that. Let me figure out how I could find the components, but I can do that. So that's what I did. I did not have a pattern because, again, the lady, she was selling a course. Everybody is selling a course, but she was selling a course. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to pay for a course for somebody that's not even in my country and possibly doesn't speak my language. That sounds like a good way to get scammed. So I believe it was about $90. At this point, I know that's a realistic price. Having paid for a sewing course that was about that cost, it probably would have been a really beneficial course to take. But at that point, I wasn't as invested. So I just thought, no, I'll watch a YouTube video or two. I'll try to figure it out. And so that's what I did. I made these sandals. I bought these flip-flops from Walmart. You can see that they've got the Corona emblem on them. And all I did was I bought an owl, A-W-L, and I poked holes in the plastic all the way around. And this just did a single crochet as the base layer. And from there, I just kept going back to her Instagram reel where I could see different parts of the sandal in her advertisement or in her post. I don't believe that it was an advertisement, but I took it as that. Like, you're showing off your work, and I appreciate you showing off your work because I'm kind of copying off your paper right now, trying to figure out how you did it, how things are spaced. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same because she used yarn that was tougher, more like a rope or something thicker, heavy duty. That actually was an oversight on my part because I thought, oh, I could do that with yarn, and you can. This proves that you can. The problem though, when I wore these, because of course I wore them, right? I wore them to Walmart. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wear my sandals. It's gonna be awesome. The problem is this yarn, it's flexible, it moves, and you do not want your shoes to move. You know what I mean? You need them to stay fixed. And so that was a problem. But we'll return to these and do a version 2 soon. You know what I mean? Soon, trademark. It'll happen. Possibly in 2026. We'll see. But we definitely need to change the quality of the yarn because it needs to be strong enough so that it's picking up, you know, your foot and all the weight on your body and keeping the shoes sucked to the bottom of your feet and it's not moving. Okay? So after the sandals, then I made more woobles. This is an example of one. I actually did buy this partnership with the Lord of the Rings. My best friend is a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to be going to visit soon. I want to make one of these and take it with me. So I made this. I made a raccoon. At that time, I made a bunny. I made a flower pot. I'll show all those things here. And I just thought, these are cool. This one was the most recent. Towards the end of the year, I wanted to make something that was Beauty and the Beast inspired because I love Beauty and the Beast. It is my favorite Disney movie. Belle is my favorite princess. And so I made Mrs. Potts. She's not finished. I need to embroider her eyebrows and then also put her smile on. But I kind of lost my steam as far as crocheting and amigurumis went. So this project, I might add it to my list of to-do things for 2026. So after the woobles, then I got fascinated with upcycling. I didn't know what upcycling was, but I learned that it's just taking things that you have or that you get from Goodwill or a resale shop and giving it new life. And I just thought, man, I could do that with some of the stuff that I have, because even though I always say, I have nothing to wear. I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of clothes. I have like an infinite amount of t-shirts. I have no idea why I have so many t-shirts, but I have so many t-shirts. And I thought, okay, well, usually my clothing options are t-shirts and jeans. I'm just gonna do a t-shirt project. What could I do to a t-shirt? So I actually got this t-shirt from my school, and I don't know that I can show all of the shirt, right? So I'll show you parts of it, the parts that I made changes to. Here is the bottom of the shirt. You can see that I crocheted around the bottom. Originally, I was crocheting a vent here because I had gained some weight, and this t-shirt really was like tight around my waist and around my stomach. And I don't like shirts to be hugging me, you know what I mean? If I need a hug, I'll ask you, but usually no, don't touch me. So I cut a slit in both sides and just figured, hey, I've seen that on Instagram where people have added granny patches and granny squares to the bottom of shirts and created cool designs. Maybe I could create a, what is the word? It's called a dart, I think, to add width to a fabric or to a garment, is to just, and so that was my goal. And it didn't really turn out how I expected it to. You can see here, after a couple washes, the stitches started to come out. And so I wear it occasionally. And after I did 75 hard, I finished it, then this shirt was way too big and I no longer needed that extra room. But you can see I just cut the hem off of it, poked some holes through it, and then started stitching. I had never done these, I'm not sure what you call them, like granny triangles. I don't know the actual term, but it worked out. It was useful for a time. I had fun, and that's what led me into thinking that I could do those pants. If you remember from one of my first YouTube videos, the big khaki pants. Those pants, they were huge. And I just took it upon myself to say, oh, I'm gonna try to make something out of them once I determined that I couldn't wear them. I couldn't resize them or reshape them to fit me. So I found that leather bag, and I'll post a picture here of what the actual leather bag is supposed to look like versus what my fabric bag actually looks like. And like I said before, it is not the best. If you can see, I've got a lot of raw edges. They're starting to fray. And like with all of my other creations, I wore it. And so the lining started coming out. The stitches that I put in were not the best. And so they started to come apart. The zipper is not really as stable as it was before. And in the spirit of upcycling and reusing items, I actually got these D-hooks and these attachments from a lunch bag. It was one of those things that you buy from Walmart, and the strap just sits in the lunchbox. You never actually use it. Well, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna repurpose it. It's gonna go with this bag now. So it lives with this bag. And I think it matches. I think it's really cute. As I mentioned before on another YouTube video, I will eventually remake this and try to improve upon it because I think that it's still a cool bag. But as far as the first upcycling with sewing, this was the first hand sew attempt. I thought it was pretty good. I'm still really proud of this. After the khaki bag, then I made a table runner, and I'll put a picture of it here. So as I mentioned before, I actually went to a sewing class at Suddenly Sew. It's a local sewing machine shop close to me. And I had a blast. I learned so much. I came home with like 2.5 pages front and back full of just information about my sewing machine, about all sewing machines, about needles, about thread. And I just left there empowered. I realized that a lot of the things that I thought that I could do, they didn't work how I thought. And a lot of the tools that I was using them incorrectly. But I don't know, man. For someone who likes to learn new things, actually learning from a master it's crucial. It's so good. So I walked away from there feeling empowered, like I said, and I was able to produce this table runner. I actually gifted it to a friend of mine who helped me and gave me that initial sewing demo at her house, and she enjoyed it. Her and her husband really enjoyed it. I'm so glad just to have them in my life and to have had that experience. It was such a beneficial time. So from the table runner, we come to the ruby vest, because you've like mastered what I thought. I mastered the khaki bag. I was like, dude, I just mastered this table runner. Now I've got all the mojo I need to do the version 1 of this ruby vest. And I just thought this was going to be the most excellent vest ever. Let's put this thing on so you can see that it is ginormous. Not ginormous in the sense that, you know, it could be oversized, but my neck is not that big, bro. This is supposed to be a high neck, so it's supposed to sit up here like this. These are the pockets from the back of the pants. The inside or the lining is a sheet. The seam binding, bias binding, it came from the notions that were left in the sewing table by Pauline. And yeah, this was version 1. I've already talked about my experience with making version 1. If you're interested in that at all, I'll put the card here. You can go back and watch what happened, what went wrong, all of my thoughts. It was a time. But then that led me to version 2, because I like to continue to do something until I've mastered it. And I don't feel like I will ever master sewing. I feel like there is always going to be something that I can improve on or something that I can learn. So of course we went back and we did a version 2 of the ruby vest. And now this version is the best. It's so freaking cute. The fit is better. It's cute. You like that, don't you? It's real cute. Look at it. Look at it. She's cute. Okay? Let's talk about the ruby vest, V2. So many things went right. So many things went wrong. Again, the card is there if you want to go back to hear about everything that went wrong with version 2. It was a time, but I really learned that you just have to do it sometimes, and then you learn in the process. I feel like that is a hindrance to a lot of people. We're so fixated on being perfect, on doing things perfectly, that we're afraid to try. And so then if you will just try, you'll learn, and you'll make mistakes, yes, but you'll learn, and then you'll know what not to do. And so this one was the best version, and I love it. And I thought, dude, version 3 is gonna be the bomb. I've already got ideas of how to upcycle sweatshirts. I've already started seam ripping those sweatshirts and cutting out things, and I've considered how to do patches and how to make one of them like a motorcycle themed, how to put dazzles on it. I'm thinking sequins on one of them, and just sparkly something, rhinestones on another one. I also was playing with an idea that I saw recently on this motorcycle vest on how to make a diamond pattern out of the quilting. I just thought that was super cool. And it dawned on me that I don't have to take my fabric and ruin it on the next attempt, that I could practice things on a smaller scale and kind of test out features and see if they work or not. So that's what I did here. I took some of the sweatshirt from one of my sweatshirts that I had cut open and seam ripped, and I just said, okay, well, I know that I'm going to use this fabric, and that I had a problem with the fabric bunching with my previous attempt on this one. At the back on the inside lining, the fabric started to bunch up because I didn't use a walking foot. And now I've heard mixed feedback on whether I actually need a walking foot. Sydney Graham, the designer of the Ruby vest, highly recommended that you use a walking foot. The problem is I don't have a walking foot, and I actually don't want to buy anything extra. I just want to learn how to use the tools that I have at my disposal. And so I had previously bought some fabric adhesive that she recommended that you get, but I didn't use it on this attempt. I pinned everything, but even with pinning, it still moved. And so I just thought, well, let's try to use that adhesive. So this is the product with the adhesive on it. And you can see that it turned out pretty good. There's no bunching. It looks really good. It didn't move at all. I also learned that if you notice, these corners are not complete. It's really not done. I was just learning to see if I could find a better way to do the bias binding, and there are a lot of mistakes. But again, this is a tester piece, and I got that idea from Sydney Graham's one of her most recent YouTube videos. She was showing how she's knitting a sweater or she's knitting something, and instead of using all of her yarn on the big product first, she did some like test squares. And I said, well, I could do the same thing with sewing, and it'll help me figure out what steps I need to put in where and what things I could do to mitigate some of the problems that I might encounter. So I think this was really good. It was a great practice round. And so if you've seen this, then you've likely seen version 3 and version 4 of the Ruby vest. And so I won't bore you with another version of it on this platform. Also, because the items that I'm cutting up, I don't think that the organizations that they represent would appreciate me showing that I've cut up their things. But we'll show them the final product and maybe all will be well. Ask for forgiveness and not permission. Terrible advice, but we do it anyway. So yeah, that is all the things that I made in 2025. What does 2026 look like? As I mentioned before, there are a lot of projects that I need to revisit, and I have started crocheting a little bit more. I actually, in January, just a few days ago, started crocheting ornaments, and they've turned out really cool. Let me show you one of them. So I crocheted these ornaments, and I thought, oh, I could give these away as like a thank you gift to a few of my students who gave me Christmas presents just before Christmas break. I know I need to revisit those sandals and probably make a stronger version. Obviously, I'll be making the version 3 and version 4 of the Ruby vest. I'd also really like to make a Western shirt. I was at an outreach that my church does, Revival Today, here in Fort Worth. And one of the ladies that goes to my church, she had on this beautiful form-fitted black Western shirt with red stitching, and when I tell you, sis was wearing that shirt. Black cowboy hat, black boots, black pants, 10 out of 10. Outfit was immaculate, but that shirt was inspirational. I want to make a Western shirt. I think that would be awesome. Something else that I have been thinking about wanting to do is like a biker vest. Also, I have recently been into patches. I've seen a lot of Instagram reels of girls taking designs from blankets and towels and cutting them and making them into patches and then stitching them onto other items. And I think that that's really cool. So yeah, I've got a lot of ideas. I'll share them all as they come to me and then take you guys along for the ride. But this was all of my 2025. We're super grateful. I'm thankful to the Lord for just the ability to be creative, a platform to share my creations, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for your time.